to the Wisdom with Wiebke podcast, where I interview different people about their definition and relationship with spirituality, to give you a glimpse of the unique ways of how to live and integrate spirituality in your life. Welcome, Sheryl, to this new podcast episode. I am so grateful that I can have you here on this Sunday. It's Sunday right now. And we know each other only over Zoom, so only through this, really great technology, actually. I'm so grateful for that. And
Yes,
I
definitely.
messaged people in a group with Eckhart Tolle, and then you reacted to that. And we kind of linked up on LinkedIn, and then we had a talk a while ago, and it felt very soul matching for me. It just felt it resonated so many things with me, and I was just like, wow, I really need to ask her if she wants to be on my podcast. And lucky me, she said yes. And today she's with me. And yeah, I think just to introduce you a little bit, but I give it to you, I hand it over to you then to really introduce yourself. But some things I think which are very interesting to hear for the listeners is that you are a DJ and you have been DJing in Las Vegas and all kinds of places, and you were traveling a lot through the DJing as well. You also have been, please correct me if I say it wrong, but I think you've been Miss Netherlands and you've also
Yes,
been Miss Globe, I
Mrs.
think.
Globe. Yes,
Oh,
yes.
Mrs. Globe, yeah. Amazing. And then right now, like a year ago, you launched something new and you have launched your website as a spiritual coach, which I'm super interested in to hear more about as well. And I'm just
hmm
gonna hand it over to you to introduce yourself a little bit more so the listeners can get to know you better as well.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, first of all. I find it funny when you say, like, when you just mentioned we only met on Zoom, I really thought to myself, oh, yeah, that's true. Because it doesn't feel like that. It feels like I've known you forever. So
Yes.
it was really, really nice the first time we had our talk together. So thank you for having me. And yeah, I mean, thank you for that introduction. Indeed, DJ is one of my jobs. I'm a bit of a jack of all trades, I guess. But stuff just grew over the years. I do work in the entertainment world, if I may call it like that, both as a DJ and a presenter, and actually also as a model, still every now and then, which is a byproduct of becoming Miss Netherlands a long time ago. This is a while back. So this is Miss Netherlands is 2006. And then years later in 2013 was the Mrs. Glow pageant. And yeah, so very much active in that field and working as a freelancer. And it's a great variety in my work to do these things. And now the other side of me is also very much the spiritual side. So that has been for, I would say, the past 6 years. And then this last year, I really felt called to also do something with it, to also serve others in that sense. So I started the spiritual coaching business. I also run my own foundation. I have a foundation for children education in the Philippines. I'm actually half Filipina, so my mom's from the Philippines. I have visited there since the age of 3. My mom is from a really rural area, grew up in poverty. So I actually also was raised with that knowledge and always, been taught to share. And so when I was Miss Netherlands, that gave me a platform to not only help with other charitable organizations and be an ambassador for that, but also launch my own foundation. So I did that, invested in my studies. Sorry, my voice is a little bit. Um,
No worries.
invested in my studies as well for the foundation. So my academic background is in cultural anthropology and development sociology. Did my fieldwork in the Philippines as well. So this is like my yeah, one of my greatest passions. It's like a passion project. and but it doesn't pay the bills. So that's why I also work in the entertainment side and yeah, and then the coaching as well. And I'm also a mom, so it's a busy life. um, I have a 3-year-old turning 4 in January, Aliana. So yeah, that's a bit in a nutshell what I do.
That's a lot. And thank you so
Yeah, it's
much
a
for
lot.
sharing. So people have a better overview of like all those various things you do. I'm fascinated by that. And even that you bring in the spiritual, like the spiritual side in there as well. Because oftentimes I feel people who see DJs, they wouldn't automatically connect those people are also spiritual. So I love that you do
Oh,
that and that you
yeah.
find on the other side now, being a spiritual coach and serving others, that you had that calling. And yeah, I always start everything, like all the episodes, with my favorite question, which would be, what does spirituality mean to you?
Everything. Everything. um yeah, it's like I live and breathe. um that word is also, it's an interesting word, right? Spirituality, and it gets overused or misused, but for me, when I look at what it means for me, is just having that God presence in your life, and just being one with life in that sense, and to really be aware of that in everything that you do. So it's always there with me when whatever I do, which is also, I think, my saving grace when you do a lot of things. So it's always there, but also in my little practices that I really carve out for spirituality, of course. It is part of my upbringing of my daughter. Definitely, want to parent with presence. And yeah, it's also a sense of, maybe urgency is not the right word, but there, yeah, maybe just call it urgency. There is this feeling, knowing that in the grander scheme of all, we are in a shift, in a transformation in this planet. And just, if I would point to Eckhart Tolle's work, moving towards a new earth, and the importance of, really allowing consciousness to grow in us, sharing it when possible, so as to foster that new earth, and to, in that sense, yeah, be uh, play a role in that important shift that we're going through in humanity.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I can resonate with that. And what got me curious when you were saying it's like you're saving grace as well, or like you integrate practices in your daily life, which is quite busy, to maintain that presence. How or what are those practices? Are there any you can share with the listeners that might help them as well?
Yes, for sure. Um, I feel like I have many, but it's more
That's
like,
great.
do you have more than an hour to share? No, no, like it's just like you have, I'm sure you can relate to that as well. Over the years, you just built this toolkit of, and you don't, every season has different tools, or where you can just get in there and be like, or every struggle or challenge we come across, you just have like, first there's the awareness, and then you just have this feeling of, okay, this is what I can do right now to become centered again, and to stay in presence, and in a place, come from a place of consciousness, to take that challenge on. But just in everyday sense, I start with meditation and stillness, and sometimes that can be long. Other times that can be just taking a few breaths. Um, Other times, when there's really no time, it would be listening to Eckhart while I'm in the car or on the bike. um, and usually there I would be listening to stuff that I've listened to over and over again. So it's not so much to pay attention, but to just really get me grounded, and just become present. Um, I love doing shaking in the mornings. I don't know if you're familiar with that practice.
Yes.
So that's really, yeah, motherhood is intense. So it's good to
Lots of shaking to do.
lots of shaking. It helps. It definitely helps. And it's like, for me, it's very beneficial to have quick
Yeah.
practices that really take you there. So one of my more frequent routines would be to shake, then do some stretching, and I'm talking just 5 minutes stretching, then go into meditation, and that can be 5 to 10 to 20 minutes, depending on what the time is. And if I have even more time, then I would usually do. Um, I do have a tendency to take a lot of courses on as well. So I would do like a lesson here or a lesson there, depending on what I feel the need is of that day. Or I would read a page or two from some of the books I really love, like from the Course in Miracles, the Tao Te Ching, and then that right away just gets me there. And then I start my day. And then throughout the day, I do definitely take moments to breathe, to just take a moment to breathe, especially when it's busy, preferably in between, I would call it blocks, when you are doing one thing and then go to the next, just take a few breaths. And I love that, I'm sure I can say that before we started this interview, you also took a moment to become still and take a few breaths. And that is so important, because otherwise you just lose consciousness easier. And I mean, you can't lose consciousness, it's always there, but you become unaware and get sucked in. So, and then before sleep, I try to do a body scan in bed,
Mm.
and just have at least like an hour or preferably longer of no devices before sleeping, so that you, in a way, um, go to sleep in a conscious state, and that will also benefit the state you wake up in. So that, yeah, those are some of the practices.
That was brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing this. And you took us through the whole day. Amazing. Because, yeah, because there are some things you want to do in the morning. Maybe the shaking, for example, I integrate that in my wild yoga as well because it's so beneficial
Yeah.
to shake
Oh
off
yeah,
all
I love
the
it.
old energy and good for the
Yeah.
nervous system and becoming present, being in your body and feel more connected, right? So I can very
Yeah.
resonate with that. I wouldn't do that in the evening so much because then you are so elevated and you
Yeah.
would be so awake in your
Yeah.
bed laying there. So thank you. That's really great. I hope, like, I can tell because I'm already taking some things with it or from it. So probably the listeners do as well. And you mentioned something at the beginning, which I would love to talk a bit more about or just mention it again, because I think it is like that, that I'm not sure about the like specific words you use, but you said something around the lines that it kind of changes what are the practices that work for you. And at the
Yeah.
beginning, it might be the awareness that shows up a bit more, or you're a bit more aware of the triggers or so, and then you learn some tools and they work for a while, and then you integrate them so much maybe that you move on and you have other tools, and then it just works that you focus on your breath, for example. And I think that's interesting because there are so many ways in tapping
Yeah.
into the present moment, and that's why I love to interview people in hearing what is your tools or what's their tool set or
Yeah.
what's their practices or whatever you want to call it to tap into that. And just to make clear, only because it works for someone doesn't have to work for you the same way, or maybe some other practices work even better, and maybe you evolve with it as well. So I think that's great to
Yeah.
know because I remember dancing always helped me at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and I do this every now and then anyway, still, because it's a great practice to do and become
100%.
aligned with your body and be in the here and now.
Yeah.
And I also now integrated meditation, which I wouldn't have done when I was only dancing, for example. So it can
Yeah.
change and it can advance. Um, so yeah, that was very interesting to hear from you as well. And then you mentioned
Yeah.
something earlier that you do kind of conscious parenting. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and how you go about that?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, first and foremost, it's I'm just always checking with myself and my present, especially with a toddler. And obviously, she's my only child, first child, so I don't know what it's like in teenage years. And I'm sure it's true what they say: the bigger the children, the bigger the problems. However, I find this quite challenging already at the toddler age, and they do have like their moods and um, shifts, tantrums even. Although, yeah, I have to say she's pretty good. uh, I'd like to think that that also has to do with with the parenting style, but it also very much has to do with the child itself. Of course, you don't get to pick in that sense. But I try to just be very present with her and allow room space for her. Obviously, I first have to do that for myself. And in every interaction, especially when you come home after a busy day, pick her up from the daycare, before I pick her up, I usually say like a little prayer, just like, okay, I'm now, or just I wouldn't even call it prayer, just a conversation with myself saying, okay, this is now Aliana's time. I'm going to be, I say a lot, be you in charge, God, be you in charge. That's like one of my favorite things to say. And so that, I get to really be there for her and shift gears in that sense. And then I know when I go pick her up at daycare, she can be easily in a mood because it's been a long day. And usually children then let everything out because the safety is there, mommy is there. So you can really get to express everything. And if you're aware of that, you won't see that as like, oh, what's happening to my child? You're like, no, okay, thank you for feeling safe. And I just allow her to do all the things, and it really is different every day. So, and yeah, just really ask her how, about her day, and involve her, cook together, just involve her in the evening practices. Um, And I think most important, and this is also something that I've learned from Eckhart's teachings, is that I already am making her aware of the pain body. So we call the pain body PD. So she actually, could say, she already says now, like, oh, mommy, PB is there. And then we say, okay, well, what can we say to PB? Or when she has been really upset, obviously when you get taken over, and then after that I just hold her and I'm like, oh, I think PB was there, right? Yeah, mommy, PB was there, and then I'll be like, oh, is Aliana back? Like, are you back? And or I would say things like, well, or it wouldn't be always PB. We also call, Bozy is we speak Dutch. I'm from the Netherlands, so Bozy would be like, I would say you translate Mr. Angry or something. And then, oh, he was there, yeah. And then what did he say, and then to really make her aware that it's not her. One
Mm,
of the tools or advices or tips that I can really give in parenting is to always separate the behavior of the being.
mm,
So when she does have, behavior that's not as pleasant, um, I would always make sure she knows, like, that's just your behavior, that's not who you are. And when I say, I tend to stay away if like you're being naughty, your behavior is not okay right now. And and so she knows that. She's already internalized that. Like she would say things like, you love me no matter what, mom. Like I am kind. I am like always, no matter what my behavior is, I am always kind. Um, Things like she knows, she says like, I'm the light of the world. So
wow.
I try to explain to her that everyone is, but not everyone knows it. And but we know, right? We know. And so yeah, just these little things, and you can bring it in a playful way. So she's in that sense, in her way, already there's an opening for consciousness to arise. And obviously I don't know how it will evolve and if that will stay or if she'll pursue spirituality, if you can call it like that, but if it's something to pursue. But at least she's aware to a certain degree already. And I try to just nourish that and foster that in the best way possible. And I think the last thing I can talk a lot about parenting. Sorry,
It's super
last thing
interesting.
the last thing I think I would like to mention is that one of the practices is also to ask myself what's mine and what's hers, because um, toddlers can be very inconvenient. And especially when you have a lot of stuff to do and you have things on your mind, and when I have a tight schedule, and to always be aware that when I get stressed, usually that's like the moments for me that I get triggered, because obviously I do also lose it. Not in a sense that I would like, scold my child or something, but where I would get irritated, or just I can feel the stress and I would like push her, like, come on, like, let's
Mhm.
go. And I try to, in those moments, because they are like the alarm clocks, right? That like, okay, I'm not in a good place right now. So I'm losing consciousness in that sense. I'm losing my awareness. I always ask myself, like, what's mine, what's hers? And I know that people around me could easily, I can already feel them thinking, like, in a way, shut your child up or something. But I'm just aware, like, this is mine. Like, I'm rushing her. I'm asking things of her that are in a way not healthy for her, and pushing. So, yes, I do get that sometimes you just need your child to like just get with the program, but just to be aware, like, is it okay to be upset with her right now, or is that actually not on her but on me? So I try to really be considerate of that, and that has helped me to have more patience with her. She need a lot of patience as a parent. You need a lot of patience.
Someone's talking from experience. I can hear that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know, like, she's also very emotional. I don't want to get into astrology or anything, but it's also like in her sign, and she's she is all the colors of the rainbow. So it's even more so you need that patience.
Well,
Yeah.
all everything you shared sounded very powerful and like something I would have loved to receive when I was a child. So even when you were sharing that when you pick her up from the daycare or for other people probably the kindergarten or wherever, right? That you see it more from a lens of gratitude that she opens up because she feels safe.
Mm,
I think that's immense because lots of times when you are in your busy schedule, and I'm not speaking out of experience, I don't have children, but I see it with others that then they get even more annoyed and more irritated by when the child then shares, and then maybe at some point they just stop sharing because they don't want to irritate the parent even more. So
yeah.
welcoming that and being that safe space for her sounds amazing. So yeah, I'm inspired by that. And I mean, even like we can do that once I hear, oh, I do that with my child, I feel it's a relationship, very, very intimate relationship. But we
Mm,
have other intimate relationships as well with our friends, with our parents, and they have been children as were we, but they are still inside little children. So we can actually use what you just described, like how you help her and how you support the growth and also the connection maybe with the light in herself. We can do that with others as well. It doesn't
yeah, I
have to
love
be
that.
our children. So
Yeah.
that was very powerful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you as well, because that's a great addition to that, because it's so true. And I I I do feel like it's easier with a child, because basically what you're talking about is unconditional love, and
Mm,
that's easy with it. The mother-child bond is just that. It's been something really amazing to experience as well. And I actually do try to also with my partner and people I meet to really be aware of that, that there is this place where you have that infinite patience and you want that
Yeah.
for the other. And but it's easier with a child because
Yeah.
you kind of like
Probably.
your child, your own child, because
Yeah.
even there's a
The others.
difference. But yeah, so but it's beautiful that you mentioned that because it's so true. It's so true. And if we can see the child in each other and come from that place and come from that place of unconditional love, there's just so much more we can do and be for each other, and it makes our own life so much easier as well because it
Mhm.
takes away the power of the mind, and that's strong as well.
Yes, yes. I mean, you made me think of that even because I'm always coming from this perspective, okay, how can I apply that to my life and how can I
Hmm.
use kind of the learnings I have by interviewing others into
Hmm.
my like little world. But you were saying to that you say to your daughter, we know about the light, like everyone has it, and some don't know, but we know. So even knowing that everyone has that light within, um, sometimes helps me for sure to be more patient with others because they
Yeah,
don't see it, and that's okay.
yeah,
But I can see it. It's
yeah,
somewhere there hidden. And you were also mentioning the Course in Miracles, which inspired me because we had another talk before, and you were kind of saying that you were following that book, and I was like, I started it, so I really want to dig deeper into it. And
yeah,
maybe just let the listeners know what was, if you have some highlights from the book that you would like to share or that maybe inspired you even more. Because I feel, correct me if that is a wrong feeling, but I feel like probably due to that book and to Eckhart's teaching, you then started to become that spiritual coach and you felt the calling to serve others. So yeah, I'm curious
yeah,
how that all started and any highlights or something you feel is close to your heart you'd like to share about that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The A Course in Miracles has been definitely a game changer for me. um it's funny because you're right. Just to touch on the last part of what you mentioned, it was a combination of Eckhart's teachings and the course that made me offer that service of spiritual coaching. Um, it's it was funny because the workbook of A Course in Miracles is so for people who don't know, it's a channeled book. Um, I'm not I don't know by heart all these details, but I do know that it's a woman who I believe was a psychologist who had nothing to do with spirituality whatsoever. And she thought she was going crazy. She got this voice in the head, and she mentioned her colleague about it, and then he said, why not tell me more about it before you call yourself crazy or you think you need to be locked up. And then all these beautiful messages came, and they together eventually honored that voice, that channeling, and put it to paper. And so there's a workbook, 365 days workbook, so with a lesson for each day. And there's a teacher's manual, and then there is that's for clinical psychologists also, a handbook. And so I couldn't get through the first part. I know we talked about that as well. Just the textbook is intense,
Hmm.
and in all honesty, it didn't resonate as much. But when I did the workbook, that was a totally different story. And it's a 365 days, but I did 3 years to finish it.
I wanted to
So
ask you because I was like, did she really do every day? Because I
I'm
think
like,
that's
that's yeah.
very, very committed
Yeah,
then.
yeah, that's commitment. And but it's possible, very possible. Actually, I should mention that
Hmm.
because they're short lessons. So you
Hmm.
could,
Yeah.
in a way, just use 15 to 20 minutes each day. But even that can be a task in itself. So 3 years it took me. and it was just beautiful and very aligned. How then I also started to take the School of Awakening of Eckhart Tolle, and that topic was becoming a teacher of presence. And so this was when I, about the same time when I finished the workbook, and I didn't know about what was coming after the workbook yet. And then I did the School of Awakening for myself. But then during the School of Awakening, I realized, oh, I probably should do something with this. I felt the call, and strongly actually. So I was like, okay. But there's always a little bit that hesitation, right? Can I? But through that School of Awakening, I really felt comfortable doing so. And then I was like, okay, let's see what this after the workbook, what comes after, and that was the teacher's manual in this in the Course in Miracles, and I really didn't know about that, so it was just amazing how those two came together. It took me 3 years to finish, and then while I finished School of Awakening, then that came in, so it was like life really telling me like go 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 go, which was really great. And yet you were asking initially about like, can you give maybe some highlights about the course? But I would say the main message there, or the main teaching and practice, is to move from fear to love.
Mm.
And a core component there is forgiveness. So that obviously comes in many different forms, but ultimately the ultimate form is, forgive, because there isn't actually anything to forgive. But it takes you there step by step. It's not for everyone because it is written in a Christian language.
Mm.
So that could maybe also hold some people. How do you say that in English? Sometimes I'm losing my words, but when you're,
Yeah, it can kind of push you back or
y-
just doesn't
yeah, it can.
resonate so much maybe with you. Yeah.
Exactly. But one of the main teachers, I would say, who really brought A Course in Miracles to the public is Marianne Williamson, and she is Jewish. But the book also came to her, and it really, yeah, transformed her. And she's one of the most known teachers of the course. Um, so it doesn't have to stop you if you can see the essence of it. Because even me, yes, I am raised Catholic, but I don't use, or I'm not that um, active in religious sense, and I also don't prefer to call God a him. But I
Mm.
obviously get the message, I get the essence, and I don't mind reading through that and then still um, take what's there. And there's really a lot of beautiful messages there. And I told you last time we spoke about a little book that has like the highlights there, and I would just read some pages there and I would just cry because
Mm.
it touches me so deeply and it's so profound. And usually profound truths are just the simple truths, right? And we
Yeah.
can't be reminded enough of things like forgiveness, acceptance, and seeing your brother or sister as yourself, and that there's no separation. So yeah, it's a really powerful course.
Mm.
I highly recommend it.
Thank you for recommending it. And also thank you for kind of sharing that you can stay open-minded with it. Like
Yeah,
once you do not fixate so much on, I think it mentions a lot of him and men
yeah.
and very not so feminist. Let's say it
No,
that way.
yeah. Very old school.
Yeah, I love it. So once you can kind of look past that,
Yeah,
and what I had the similar reaction to the very start of the book. It's just so heavy, very cryptical, and at least for me, my language is not English, as you can hear.
yeah.
So it will be German, but I have the book in English, so it was even more complicated in my head. And every now and then it was kind of like a light bulb would go off. Then I would read a bit more, and I was like, okay, never mind. So a bit complicated again. So I did the same. I started with the everyday challenges.
Yeah,
I loved them. And I just, in my head, I switch things. Like I resonate more with universe, doesn't always have to work that way with others. But when I read God or so, I just like switch it right away. I'm like, oh, the
Yeah.
universe. Okay, so it's
Yeah.
more, for me, it's then more general.
Yeah, you know what it
And
points to.
exactly. And I like
Yeah.
how you said once you kind of resonate with the truth, or you can kind of read within between the lines, and
Yeah.
the profoundness of it kind of reaches you,
Yeah.
then it doesn't really matter what else is there. Or
No.
even you can filter through it in a way and just take the things that you need. I have that with books anyway. So you would read Eckhart, or and then that year when I read it, certain things would resonate with me. And then a year after, I would read it again and be like, huh, how could I have overread
Yeah.
this? In a way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Or there's a different challenge in your life where then it totally makes sense. You know,
yes,
you're like,
like all
oh,
the
now
signs
I
are
get to
coming.
apply this.
Yes. Yeah, so it's great to hear how it reached you and that you do serve others now. And just maybe also, because I'm curious too, if a person would like to book a call with you, how does that work? And what does a spiritual coach do?
It's actually it's very simple. I
Mhm.
just hold space. I hold space. I allow presence to arise in the session, and I do that to, of course, start with meditation. And you don't have to call it meditation. It really depends who is, sitting on the other side. I also have people come to my house, so that's also nice when you have them in person. But obviously, nowadays a lot of it is online. So I start just by inviting stillness so that you can both really land, but also for presence to really arise, and then basically for the person Cheryl to step aside and to allow for just to come through what needs to come through. And when you're in that place together, it feels also like a joined force field. Even with us, when we had our conversation before, uh, we could have never guessed all the things we spoke about, beforehand. But it in that moment, it just arises through both of us. And I feel like in that sense, with the coaching, it's spiritual coaching is the same thing. And you just hold space for that person. You help or guide that person to really come to that place, and then it just flows from there. And obviously there once you talk about challenges that a person might have, it usually goes back into the ego, because if we just really look at it black and white, it's only the ego that does create problems for us. So, and there it's just a constant, staying present and um, gently guiding someone back to the truth and back to the essence within, and from that place come to solutions or maybe next steps, that are that could help this person further in their lives. And then I usually also give tools and tips of, and that's why the toolkit comes in handy because there's a lot in there.
Yes.
And then even for me, I would sometimes forget about a certain tool that I knew about. It's like, oh wait, yeah, that's like
Mm.
um I've done a lot of work on myself for many years, because it was already 10 years ago. I got, because I'm a busy bee, I got a severe burnout. And so from then onwards, I went into therapy and all of that, did EMDR. And so even there, that's not really spiritual, but just really therapy. And there I also have so many tools that I would then forget about. And then in that moment, you're just like, oh wow, I have the perfect like
Mm.
um solution for that, or just something that can help you with that. And then it's just great because you learn a lot yourself too. And I'm sure you relate to this.
Yeah.
It's like, oh wow, things arise in the present moment that both can learn from. And that's also in the Course in Miracles, actually, where they say student and teacher are one. They're interchangeable.
Mm.
So
Yeah, I like how you mentioned that kind of goes away from separation more to unity. And when you're with that person in a room or even over Zoom, you enter this space together.
Yeah.
You hold the space, of course, but you're still like, that's how I feel as well in my coaching. You're still very much
Yeah.
connected in
Yeah.
that kind of field or in that stillness or in that presence or whatever you want to call it. And I like that you shared that you would share tools with them as well, because and or even saying that you can kind of help or support them with the tools you've already learned, because lots of times we go through some suffering or we go through certain challenges in our life, and then with that we equip, like we get stronger, we overcome that,
Hmm.
right? And then we somehow, for me as well, we attract people with the exact struggle I had or we had.
Yeah.
Probably you can resonate with that. And
Yeah,
then we
for
have
sure.
all the tools. We're like, well, that worked for me. I might as well share it.
Yeah.
So that's great that you do that. And also I can like I feel and I can hear and I can sense that you have done a lot of work on yourself, and it's just so beautiful to see someone
Thank you.
who does that and continuously does that, and there's no end, as we said the last time we spoke. There's always room for
Yeah.
improvement. If you see it as
Yeah.
an improvement or just growth or even more awareness, there's never enough awareness, because there's always something a little bit hidden, I guess. Um,
Yeah. Always. Always.
so thank you for that. That really resonated, and I will put, you will give me your links and I will put it underneath the episode, so if people want to contact you they will be able to do that. And just so we kind of wrap it up, I love to ask people about what's their passion, or maybe is there like a kind of a heart project you would like to talk about, anything you would like to share before we end the episode today.
Well, thank you for for offering that. Actually, two things come to mind. First, I mentioned already briefly is my foundation, so where I do projects for children and education in the Philippines. And one thing that I just feel like sharing is that this most recently we have this beautiful collaboration between the foundation and the high school here in the Netherlands, which is the first high school since 17 years I have my foundation already. But they're going to raise funds a whole year long for the Sheryl Lynn Foundation and for the Philippines, and I get to set up a project for an indigenous tribe in the island where I'm active, and we get to incorporate empowerment sessions there as well. So I notice a shift within the foundation where it was already before COVID, where I was also starting to do empowerment workshops myself when I was in the Philippines, and just giving the youth that sense of I am,
Mhm.
uh, the power behind that. And so it's really nice that the foundation is going through a transformation in that sense as well, where it gets to combine spirituality and helping children in need, in poverty, with education and empowerment. So, yeah, I just felt like mentioning that because that's really a heart project, and that is
Yeah.
becoming more alive now, because the spirituality factor is also making an entrance there. So, that's really beautiful for me to see. And the other thing which I'm really excited about is that I actually initiated today. It's been already on my mind for a long, long time, and now it felt right to launch it. And that was it's kind of like a women's circle, but for mothers. And so I really, hope that that will turn into something beautiful. And it's definitely an open invite for any moms who would like to be part of that, and just to give a safe space again for mothers to connect with each other, but also connect within, and just find that stillness and peace within, so that it enriches the motherhood journey. To become a better mother. We're all great mothers already. I find it's rare that someone can be a bad mother. There's always just so much love there, but we can all use each other and some extra tools and basically also some extra me time. So even though it's going to be a circle, it's definitely also a place to really just come to self and then me time in capital M to to really reconnect there and from that place navigate motherhood with more peace and yeah, that's something that I just launched, and that would be an open invite for any moms out there that would like to join. You're very welcome.
This sounds great. And I already know people I'm gonna send, once we publish the episode, I'm gonna send it to them and send your website
Amazing.
because that's, yeah, that's very much what they need. I have the feeling when I talk to them, they need the me time. But then also lots of things probably you mentioned at the beginning, how you raise your child will resonate with them as well. And they would want to, yeah, probably be in contact with you or learn even more about that. So I'm very excited for all the
Thank you.
projects you have, even the
Thank you.
foundation coming more together with your heart project, or like even having a heart project and coming together with the spirituality now. Sounds
Yeah.
exciting as well. I wish you best of luck with that, with both
Thank
of
you so
them,
much.
and any future endeavors. We will stay in contact. I'm pretty sure of that. And
100%, yes.
I'm so glad that you took the time today for your energy. Your energy is amazing. I'm very grateful to have had you here, and thank you
I just feel like I
for
just want
everything.
to say everything back to you because, 100%, like that's same to you. It's been really amazing meeting you, and just your energy is so beautiful. And it's great to have that reflection, of course. And we do have similar paths as well when it comes to the coaching. I feel I can also learn so much from you. So it's beautiful, and I just thank you for the opportunity to have me on the podcast.
Of course, and thank you so much. I wish you a wonderful night at yours, and we're gonna
Thank
see you
you.
soon. Thank you so much.
Yes, and you have a beautiful day.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode today. If you know a friend or someone who might benefit from this as well, please do share it. And always feel free to rate my podcast with a 5-star review. Stay awesome and be well. Thank you.